The views expressed on this program are those of the producers and individuals appearing on this program and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Sun Prairie Media Center staff, its video service providers, or the staff and elected officials of the City of Sun Prairie.
Hello there, and welcome to Real Reviews. My name is Jamison Rabbit, and this week I'm so excited because I am joined by the award-winning host of Sun Prairie News, friend of the show, friend of mine. It's Dan Presser. Welcome back, sir.
It's good to be here as always. I love to do the show, and this is an exciting one.
It is. It's a show that I've been anticipating for a while. It's one that we do every year, and I really enjoy.
And I was fortunate, right? I got to do it with you last year, and as you said before, not a lot of those movies made our top movies of last year.
Yeah, we're talking about our most anticipated movies of 2023, trying to project forward into the rest of the year for movies that excite us for whatever reason it is. And last year, I found that only one of the movies that I picked even made my top 15 at the end of the year. So I'm not a fortune teller. I could probably be a weatherman.
Right.
As good as they're doing right now around here.
50-50, right?
Yeah.
And I don't even know. I'll have to go back and look at my list and see how many made my top movies of the year.
Some of them didn't even come out yet. But first, let's get into some movies that are actually out. And I'm going to get us started with what we have on the marquee this week. I went and saw a movie called Magic Mike's Last Dance from director Steven Soderbergh. Stars Channing Tatum as that titular Magic Mike. We meet Mike. He's down on his luck since we last saw him. He's bartending at a private event for a very wealthy woman, played by Salma Hayek. She finds out that he is the famous Magic Mike and begs him to come out of retirement for one last dance for her. And this dance changes her life, inspires her. The next thing he knows, he's on a private jet, and they are on their way to London, England. Salma Hayek's character of Alexandra Mendoza is in the midst of a separation from her insanely wealthy husband. And she has a theater in London, a real stage theater that she owns. And she cancels the show that is about to open, fires everyone, and gives old Magic Mike control to create the greatest, most erotic stage show ever.
Very plausible.
Yeah. She wants to shed expectations of this theater, maybe embarrass her husband, and Mike needs to fulfill her wishes, even if he doesn't quite understand them, and you as the audience also struggle to understand her motivations for this. But there's also a family drama they introduce with her adopted daughter kind of popping in and out of the movie, mostly to just offer sage words of wisdom and provide this strange voiceover where she's quoting poetry about how important dance is. That just felt so out of place. There's drama with Salma Hayek's husband in this movie. And, of course, there's several dance montages as Magic Mike has to go out and find dancers and then train them. And the real question that were posed in this movie is, can dance change everything? And I'm not sure if it does or not. But what I found was that this movie was a fairly boring movie that was kind of punctuated by a fun ending when they finally do the big show.
Okay.
And we get the dance going on. And
But it looks like some incredible dancing.
Yeah, and most of that is within the final 9 minutes of the movie.
Oh.
I mean, Channing Tatum can still dance. He can still step up with the best of them. But Salma Hayek's character, her motivations didn't always make sense. I didn't quite understand what she was doing. They had very little chemistry together, I thought, in a movie that is based around the chemistry is so intense that she's willing to ruin people's lives.
Right, change everything for him.
And I was like, but I don't buy the chemistry between these two. Also, what I found was in the first couple movies, which I really enjoyed, the first couple Magic Mikes, it was about the ensemble, the guys that he was with, his team. In this movie, they're not there. They show up on a Zoom call for a minute just to be there.
Of course.
Glitchy Zoom call. But then he goes out and gets all these dancers, but you don't meet any of them. You don't know any of them.
So no character
no personality,
development with anybody
nothing.
else.
They're just like, there's the redhead guy. There's the guy with the tattoos. That's it. So it kind of loses that ensemble feel, and you never really get a feel for these guys or why you care. And a good chunk of this film is just kind of like a meathead abroad. Dumb American in high society London.
Getting a big break again.
Yeah,
so to speak.
It's a lot of that. And so I thought the first two movies were actually fairly good movies.
Yeah.
I felt like this was some weird fantasy that I wasn't like digging on. And the dancing is amazing and all that, but not to the point where I could see a woman throwing away her life and ruining other people's lives because of this one dance that she got.
And her reasoning was just that she knew of his fame before.
Someone else at the party was like, I hired Magic Mike for my bachelorette party years ago. And she's like, not the Magic Mike. Oh. I will pay you $600,000 to give me a private dance. Yeah, really. Yeah, some really cringy parts of this movie. So Magic Mike's Last Dance, I ended up giving it 2 stars. Wasn't a lot of fun. Pretty boring. The end sequence was a lot of fun, but
it's not one I'm probably going to rush out to see or see when it hits the streaming.
You're fine. You didn't go see it, and you're better.
Thank
for
you
it.
for that. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Steve Sabatke gave me a hard time about that.
Yeah,
you didn't have to go see that movie.
Yeah, he has to go see some junk. Let's move on to what we have on our streaming spotlight, sir. We were over on Netflix. What do you have?
So we had It's Your Place or Mine, and speaking of chemistry, you would expect a lot of chemistry between Reese Witherspoon and Ashton Kutcher. They played Debbie and Peter, who hooked up once in 2003, and they've been best friends ever since, but they kind of realized after that that's all they were going to be. Now, of course, 20 years later, they live on opposite sides of the country. Debbie lives in LA with her 13-year-old son. She's divorced from her rock climbing first husband. And Peter and she have remained best friends via FaceTime or Skype or phone calls or whatever they were able to do over the years. And she's an overly protective, uptight mom, kind of a typecast for Reese Witherspoon sometimes. And he's a charismatic charmer with commitment issues. You've seen that role before,
this
too.
Is so stereotypical.
Yes. And she lives in this quiet neighborhood in a cozy craftsman, can walk down the streets with tree-lined streets. And he lives in a Brooklyn condo overlooking the Brooklyn Bridge with it's a fantastic view. But
in like an American Psycho apartment.
It really is. It's devoid of any personality. Yeah. I mean, it's a really cool modern look, but it tells you nothing about him as a person. Obviously, 2 very different people, the old opposites attract trope. And we never really get to see them being opposites, though, really. They switch apartments, basically, because he goes to watch her son while she takes a class in New York. And, of course, she takes his apartment, he takes her house, and he is, in the meantime, raising Jack, the son, who is played by, Kimmel. What was his first name? I can't remember.
I don't have it listed.
Wesley Kimmel,
okay.
Who did a nice job. In fact, I liked the relationship between Peter and Jack. That was a nice relationship. And, of course, they both have quirky sidekicks. You have Zoe Chow, who is Debbie's friend. For a weird reason, she is Peter's ex. She happens to pop in on Debbie one day, and for some reason she decides she's going to be coaching her through her time in New York and her relationship with Peter and her relationship with another character in the film. Yeah. You really don't get why.
Right.
And Peter befriends Tig Notaro, who is Debbie's best friend. I don't even know what Tig's character's name was.
I don't know. She's just a character who shows up with coffee in her hand in every scene.
She's Debbie is a teacher, and it's one of Debbie's teaching cohorts. And she's a great character. She's kind of sardonic and kind of sarcastic.
I just never believed that she was friends with any of these people in real life.
No, exactly. and honestly, you don't really believe any of the relationships.
Yeah.
Like, you don't really understand why Zoe would like Debbie. You don't understand why Tig would have liked Peter, and you don't understand why Peter would have liked Debbie. There's nothing there, so to speak.
And then Steven Zahn's just there as the crazy gardener neighbor,
which was a quirky character, and it was kind of fun. He was
it just seemed so random.
It was very random. Honestly, I thought the best relationship in the show was Peter's with Jack, the son.
I agree.
And it's hard to make a romantic comedy when 2 people are never together in the same room.
That's what I realized at the end. I said, what was missing about the chemistry? And then I realized, until the final moments of the movie, they were always just on the phone with each other. They were never together.
Right.
Like, that's why there wasn't the chemistry I was expecting. Was they weren't in proximity to each other.
Right, and even their conversations, the few that you saw while they were on FaceTime or whatever, it was kind of very superficial conversations. So it was really hard to believe that these 2 people somehow loved each other after a quick hookup in 2003. So that was I actually thought the best part of the movie, other than the relationship with Peter, was at the very end when they were both passing by
on the walking sidewalks.
On the walking sidewalks. That was kind of funny. It was kind of fun, and you got to see them together. And there was just a brief moment of chemistry there.
We should have had more of that, though.
We needed more of that. There wasn't really even any believable conflict other than the old, I'm going to do something and not tell you about it, and you're going to do something and not tell me about it. Yeah. So, I like romantic comedies. I've told you that before. Yeah. But as far as the comedy and the romance went in this one, there just wasn't a lot of it.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of, especially Reese Witherspoon. I think she's kind of a legend of this genre, right? I think she's great.
It's her wheelhouse.
And I was fairly excited for this because I also enjoy, rom-coms. And it was just a mediocre movie. There's comedic bits, Steve Zahn, every time he would pop up. There's comedic bits, but never enough to pull it out of mediocrity.
Right, I agree.
And I was kind of just passively invested in this movie for most of it. Just like got done and go, well, there's my big budget Hallmark movie for the month, I guess.
Well, and I'll be honest, I just watched a Hallmark movie called A Paris Proposal on Hallmark. And that was a better movie than this movie. It had better chemistry between the characters. So if you want to see a good rom-com, go check that one out. Yeah. Not that if you're a Reese Witherspoon fan and an Ashton Kutcher fan, you might enjoy this movie, but it's very middling.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
What did you end up giving Your Place or Mine?
I gave it a 2.5, and that's simply because of the star power in the movie.
That's exactly how I feel. I gave it 2.5 for the same reasons.
And a great soundtrack.
Yeah.
It had the Cars.
I don't think it was a bad movie. It just was lackluster in every way.
Yes, I agree. It was the directing debut for, what was her name?
Aline Brosh McKenna.
Who did, of course, she wrote the Devil Wears Prada, which, of course, was a much better movie.
Great movie.
Yeah. So I was expecting more.
That's over on Netflix. If you want to turn it on and go, vacuum, go ahead.
Yeah. It's like one of those you put on and it's okay.
Yeah, it's not going to change your life.
Right.
All right. Speaking of movies that we hope will change our lives, let's take a look ahead for our most anticipated films of 2023. We each picked 10 movies plus some to look ahead at. And like I said, I looked back at last year's list. I had 10 movies. 3 of them didn't even come out last year. And only The Batman made my top 15 at the end of the year. So my hit rate was pretty low. Last year, Dan, you had Elvis as your number 1 movie.
That was my number. And, honestly, that would be top 3 for me just because I am such a big Elvis fan. And I liked the music. And it was interesting enough to still be in my top 3, I think.
All right, that's good. That's good. So let's just launch right into our first one with your number 10.
My number
movie.
10. So I have a movie called A Good Person. It is directed by Zach Braff, starring Florence Pugh, Molly Shannon, Shanaze Uche, I think that's how you pronounce it, Celeste O'Connor, and of course Morgan Freeman. And any movie Morgan Freeman is a good movie in my book.
Yeah.
So it had to make the top 10 list for me. It's coming out in March. It's about a woman's unlikely relationship with her would-be father-in-law years after she survives a fatal crash and an opioid addiction. And I'm a sucker for those, kind of unlikely relationship type of movies, and I love Morgan Freeman's acting, and I love Florence
Pugh's
Pugh
one of my
too.
favorite actresses right now.
She's on 2 of the movies that I've got on my list. And Molly Shannon, she's such an interesting person.
Yeah.
My wife's reading her book right now, and she's an interesting person, so I like her comedy. I'm looking forward to this one. And Zach Braff, he's a solid director. I wouldn't say he's one of my favorite directors, but he's also directed, an episode of one of my favorite TV shows, Ted Lasso. So,
Zach Braff, I have a problem with him.
Yeah. So hopefully he doesn't ruin the movie.
Win me over. Win me over. Absolutely.
But the movie, the concept sounds good, and it's good enough for me to be at number 10.
Yeah, great cast.
Yeah.
My number 10 is a movie that was on my list last year. It was my number 5 movie last year under a different name. It has since changed names. Last year, Disappointment Boulevard was my number 5. Now it is known as Beau is Afraid from director Ari Aster. Comes out April 21st. Stars Joaquin Phoenix, Parker Posey, Amy Ryan. It is billed as an epic odyssey of a man trying to get home to his mother. The trailer looks really surreal, and Ari Aster's first 2 films, Hereditary and Midsommar, were both 5-star films for me.
Yep.
In the way that they're disturbing in specific ways. And this cast and this filmmaker have me very excited. They've just started showing the trailers recently, and I was Really intrigued by the trailer, and it's a carryover from last year. It's dropped from number 5 to number 10 now.
Yeah. Well, they have to deliver, right?
Yeah, exactly. Give me the movie
sooner or later.
So apparently in April we will actually be getting Beau is Afraid. So that's my number 10.
Well, and I did see a trailer for that, and it does look good. It didn't make my list simply because sometimes I'm hot and cold on
Joaquin.
Yeah, on Joaquin.
Sure.
But I'm looking forward to that one too. Number 9 for me, and probably higher on some folks' lists because it's one of the big blockbusters coming out this year. Guardians of the Galaxy, Volume 3. James Gunn directs this third edition of the ragtag space criminals who turn into superheroes, and there's not a lot of information out there, I guess, about it. But of course, it's got Chris Pratt, Zoe Saldana, Dave Bautista, Vin Diesel, all of those folks who you've loved in the other movies. And I love the comedy that, I'm not a big superhero guy, but I like Chris Pratt. I like the comedy he brings to that character. And Dave Bautista's wonderful.
They deliver consistently with these movies.
They do. And so this is one of the big blockbuster superhero movies that I'm going to enjoy and I'm looking forward to seeing. And I also hear it's probably one of the most emotional.
This is the end of the Guardians story.
And so we may lose some of the characters, and that could be interesting, I guess. So I'm looking forward to that one.
It's one of the few superhero movies this year that I'm actually looking forward to.
Same.
Yeah, that's awesome. I like that. My number 9 is a film that's coming out April 5th. It's from director Ben Affleck. It is, we just got a trailer for it during the Super Bowl. It's called Air. Directed by Ben Affleck. Stars Ben Affleck and Matt Damon back together again. Jason Bateman, Viola Davis, Chris Tucker. It is a sports drama about Nike's quest to land Michael Jordan as their signature star for their shoes. Ben Affleck plays Phil Knight, the head of Nike. Matt Damon plays Sonny Vaccaro, the super agent for Jordan. And, I mean, these two have a great history together of delivering great films. And Ben Affleck in the director's chair has been great.
Yeah.
I mean, I've loved everything he's done.
All of his movies.
They've built up a lot of equity with me. And this is an interesting story. And it doesn't appear that they have anyone cast to play young Michael Jordan. They're more focused on going after Jordan's parents to try and lock in the deal. Viola Davis playing Michael Jordan's mother. Probably smart to not try and get someone to be Michael Jordan.
Yeah, I would agree
keep
because
him out of it.
How do you create a character bigger than the
iconic,
real person?
yeah. So I mean, the subject matter is interesting. I don't know how you build suspense on it because are they going to be able to sign him? Is Air Jordan going to be?
We know what happens, right?
But the equity of these guys together making films is something I'm always interested in. So.
I'm with you. That made my honorable mention list. I barely just kept it off because I thought, I bet you'll have it on.
Sure, absolutely.
So, for me, number 8 is a movie called No Hard Feelings. It's expected out in June. It's directed by Gene Stupnitsky. I don't really know a lot about him. You might know more about him. And I simply put this on the list because Jennifer Lawrence is in this movie.
Sure.
And I like her movies. Typically, Matthew Broderick's in this. He's another one of my favorite actors. Wow. And it's a kind of a coming-of-age comedy set in Montauk, New York. Lawrence plays a character who answers a mother's Craigslist ad to date her son before he enters college. It sounds like an interesting kind of coming-of-age, maybe The Graduate meets, I don't know what the next movie would, but kind of a movie like that. And Jennifer Lawrence is a very interesting person to watch on screen. I think I like her acting. So that's why that's number 8 for me. And I haven't seen anything from her in a little bit.
My number 8 is a film coming out July 21st from director Greta Gerwig, written by her husband Noah Baumbach. It's Barbie. Stars Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling as Barbie and Ken, based on the Mattel doll, of course. Just saw the first trailer for this in the Super Bowl as well. Also co-stars Helen Mirren, Will Ferrell, Will Perlman, Kate McKinnon. The trailer looks great. Little girls who've always been playing with baby dolls until suddenly this statuesque Barbie arrives and changes the world. And it looks like a ton of fun and should be a well-told, smart movie about the cultural impact of this molded piece of plastic. I love Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach when they're together creating films.
And what a cast.
This could be horribly stupid when they first announced it, the Barbie movie. But the more I've been reading and seeing about it, I'm actually really excited for this.
I have that as my number 7.
Oh,
so,
nice. There you go.
I had it pretty high up there, too. I mean, it's pop culture to me. Barbie is probably one of the most, like you said, most iconic dolls, pop culture figures of all time, really. So I'm a little concerned maybe it won't deliver because it is getting some good buzz,
Yeah.
but the cast looks great. I mean, you got Will Ferrell, you got Ryan Reynolds, you got Michael Cera, Kate
Tons of
McKinnon.
people, tons.
So
I'm scrolling through that list going, wow.
it's stacked. So I have really high expectations. I hope it delivers.
So that's your number 7, you said?
That was my number
Look at that,
7.
back to
so
back.
we're pretty close. And actually, I forgot about this one. Should I? Well, you got to do your number 7.
Yeah,
first.
let me get.
Yep.
I'll jump in. My number 7 is another film. This was my number 3 last year. It comes out June 2nd. It's Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, the sequel to the great Miles Morales story that we got a few years ago. Miles Morales returns finally, where he encounters more spider people, including Spider-Gwen, and they don't all agree on how they're supposed to protect the universe. And the first Miles Morales Spider-Man movie was one of the most visually stunning films I've seen in a while. They really brought the comic book onto the screen, and it was great and told a fun story, an important story about a Spider-Man origin that isn't the same retread that we've seen 1,000 times. It's a different one. And the first one was one of my favorite films of 2018, and this one looks great. I have huge expectations for it. So Across the Spider-Verse is my number 7.
I'm going to check that one out too. I forgot I did put another superhero one. It's Ant-Man and the Wasp. Quantumania is my number 6. That's out today, which is February 17th as we tape this. Directed by Peyton Reed. Paul Rudd and Evangeline Lilly are in this movie. Paul Rudd is one of my favorite actors. He's a lot of fun to watch. He brings a certain vulnerability and kind of forgotten superhero quality to the Ant-Man. So I like that. And they're putting them in, of course, the quantum universe for this. And I think the character of Kang the Conqueror, played by Jonathan Majors, will be an interesting addition to this. I really love him. He's a wonderful actor. So this is pretty much, for me, it's all about the actors. I don't care so much about the whole quantum universe, but I think they're going to carry that character and that storyline forward, and there'll be some crossover. So that'll be interesting to watch, I think.
Hopefully it lives up to it.
Yeah, I hope so.
My number 6 is a movie that I'm hoping comes out this year. No date yet, but it is a film called Maxine from director Ty West. It is the third film in the trilogy that we got last year of X and Pearl. Pearl, it was my number 5 favorite movie of 2022. Stars Mia Goth as Maxine as she goes to LA to become a star in the cocaine-fueled 1980s. Love these movies. Love Mia Goth in the roles of Pearl and Maxine in those previous films. I'm very excited, hopefully, that it comes out this year. We'll see.
We'll find out.
Your number 5, sir.
Number 5 for me is Oppenheimer, maybe lower than most people would put it. Christopher Nolan directs this one, July 21st. It's really a kind of a look at the development of the atom bomb through the Manhattan Project, and of course J. Robert Oppenheimer, who was the leader of that program. And it's I think it's going to have a lot of psychological elements to it, which I think is going to be fun to watch. And you've got, again, Matt Damon, Rami Malek in that, Jack Quaid, Robert Downey Jr.
Huge
Great
cast in that movie.
Looking forward to that one a lot.
Absolutely. My number 5 is Dune Part 2, coming out November 3rd. Denis Villeneuve's sequel to one of the best films of 2021, I thought. This time it will be theatrical only, where that was a day-and-date release with HBO Max, the first one.
Yep.
This one is going to be in theaters only. And kind of finish the tale of Frank Herbert's novels. I was so invested in that first movie, and it lived up to all the hype that I had for it, and I'm really anticipating this one and hoping that it really delivers everything that it needs to. So.
That didn't make my list, but it's on my honorable mention, just because I'm not a big Dune fan, but I do like the movies.
Sure. So, your number 4.
Number 4 for me is Mission Impossible: The Dead Reckoning, Part 1. Christopher McQuarrie is the director of this movie, and of course, you got Tom Cruise coming back and doing some fantastic stunts.
Of course.
And they build the whole movie around like the set pieces, and they rewrite the movie over and over. You hear when they're making these movies. So there's going to be a lot of great action, a lot of great stunts. And the storylines always deliver in these Mission Impossible movies. So I'm really looking forward to this one.
I love every one of those. My number 4 is a film called Asteroid City. Comes out June 23rd. Wes Anderson's new movie brings back his whole host of actors and characters that travel with him, his merry band of creative makers. And he has his very particular style and creates these universes and fills them with really interesting characters. And I don't really even need to know a whole lot about it. If it's a Wes Anderson movie and it's got, all my favorites in it, I'm definitely going to see it.
Same.
I'm really excited for this one.
That was my number 3.
Okay, there you go. So
I mean, the cast, I mean, Tom Hanks, Margot Robbie, Scarlett Johansson. I mean, it goes
So
on
many.
and on. And the time period, it's all there for me. I don't even care what it's about.
Exactly. I love it. My number 3 was my number 1 last year. It's Killers of the Flower Moon, Martin Scorsese's newest film starring, Leonardo DiCaprio, Robert De Niro, Jesse Plemons, Brendan Fraser.
Jeez.
Just huge. I feel like I've been hearing about this and anticipating it for years now.
I didn't put it on my list because of that.
That's kind of why it dropped,
Yep.
was because I'm kind of getting fatigued and I just want to see it.
Yep.
Just give it to me. And it still doesn't have a release date.
I know.
It might not even come out this year.
Well,
I'm
and I
terrified of it. And that's kind of the only reason it's not number 1 again, is because there's a chance it doesn't even come out this year.
Well, and I wonder if it will, because my number 2 is
Yeah?
another Scorsese film
What's
called
this?
Roosevelt, which is
yes.
Another Leonardo DiCaprio entry. He plays Teddy Roosevelt in this, and Scorsese, is he going to release 2 big movies
Right.
in 1 year? I don't know, but they're expecting this one to be released in July. It's of course the life story of Teddy Roosevelt,
That's really
a very
cool.
interesting character in American history. So, and who could bring him to life more than Scorsese and Leonardo? So
I love it.
I hope it comes out.
Yeah, absolutely. My number 2 is a movie that comes out November 10th on Netflix. It is the newest film from director David Fincher, his second Netflix movie after Mank. It's called The Killer. Stars Michael Fassbender, Tilda Swinton, this neo-noir thriller about an assassin, a cold-blooded, conscienceless assassin who suddenly starts to have a psychological break and starts doubting himself, whether he's losing his mind. And in a world with no moral compass and filled with contract killers, and he's losing his mind. Is he a danger to himself and others? And it's great actors, one of the best directors around for these types of movies.
That looks like a great
I'm
movie.
all the way in. Anything that David Fincher does, I'm in.
I'm with you. I didn't put it on my list, but again, honorable mention. Mine, of course, I'm a child of the 70s and 80s, so my number 1 movie is Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. We don't know a lot about what this movie is going to be about, but it's, of course, you've got Harrison Ford in the movie, you've got Phoebe Waller-Bridge, Antonio Banderas, some great acting in it, and it's going to have your fun indie hijinks, and there might be some time travel, I've heard too. So that I'm a sucker for time travel.
Give me Harrison Ford with the fedora and the
Yep.
John Williams soundtrack. I'm in.
Same.
I'm excited.
So
for it.
that's my most excited movie.
My number 1 is one that you mentioned. It's Oppenheimer, Christopher Nolan's movie. Cillian Murphy, Florence Pugh, Emily Blunt, a huge cast of people. Shot in black and white for IMAX. You know it's going to be gorgeous.
Yes.
The sound is going to be amazing. He's going to give you things to think about, to dissect afterwards, to want to go rewatch it probably. I'm really excited for Oppenheimer.
And when you watch a trailer and you see it and you want there to be more,
Yeah.
let that trailer keep going.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a movie you want to
Yeah.
see. You hope it delivers.
I love it. And you mentioned some honorable mentions. Do you have anyone's run off real quick?
I had air like you had in Creed 3 is a movie
Sure.
I'm looking forward to seeing. I'm kind of interested in seeing where they're going to take that. I had Killers of the Flower Moon, and I also had Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. I like Chris Pine. He's one of my favorite kind of action adventure. And I was a kid. Dungeons and Dragons was big when I was a kid, and I'm just kind of curious to see what happens with that one.
Nice. I have Spaceman, this sci-fi adventure about a Czech orphan who goes to space, led by Adam Sandler, Paul Dano.
That looks interesting.
Havoc, Gareth Evans' new action thriller starring Tom Hardy. John Wick 4 that's going to be coming out soon. Guardians 3. Those are kind of my honorable mentions amongst so many others.
There's
Had to
so
cut
many.
it off.
It's hard to cut it off. There's just so many movies coming out, and so many that just don't even just go into the theater.
Right.
So.
Yeah. So hopefully these all pay off. We come back next year and go, we nailed it. They were all great.
Right. They're all going to be
amazing
perfect.
5-star movies everywhere. We'll see. Let's take a look ahead. Coming soon, February 24th. We have a few movies. First one is Cocaine Bear, directed by Elizabeth Banks. What happens when a bear eats a ton of cocaine and goes on a rampage? We're going to find out in this crazy comedy based on a true story. Actually, it's a lot of fun. We also have over on Hulu Bruiser, a drama about a 14-year-old who's bullied and turns to a charismatic loner for help and to provide a father figure that he's been lacking. Stars Jalen Hill and Trevante Rhodes. And then lastly on Netflix, a film called We Have a Ghost, an action comedy about a family who discovers a ghost in their new home, and they become social media sensations until a look into this ghost's past embroils them into a CIA conspiracy plot. Stars Jennifer Coolidge, Anthony Mackie, and David Harbour as said ghost.
Ghosts are becoming a big thing in
Absolutely.
TV series and
Why not?
movies, right? Yeah.
I'm excited.
You can do a lot with them.
Real quick, let's thank our sponsor, Marcus Theaters, the Palace here in Sun Prairie. Thank you for sponsoring this program and showing us all these movies that we've been talking about today. Can't wait to sit in the Dream Lounger and watch Oppenheimer. Why not? Next week, I am going to be joined by Kate Sadler to talk about Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, amongst a few other movies. We're trying to figure out what our streaming movies are, but you want to tune in for all of that because, I mean, it's the most anticipated movie. Hopefully it delivers.
You'll have to tell me if it delivers. You know, high expectations, so maybe
Absolutely. Not. All right, Mr. Presser, thank you again for joining me.
Good to be here again.
Watch him over on the Sun Prairie News. It is one of the great programs produced here at the K-Sun, so check him out. It's one of our best shows.
Find out what's going on around Sun Prairie, and you get to see the quick hit movie review.
Yeah, enjoy that. All right, until next week, where I'm joined by Kate to talk about some movies. I'm Jamison.
And I'm Dan.
Thanks for watching.